third show, maybe fourth. The open mic, KBS open mic. Thanks to ZX and Wookie for hooking it all up, because it's not as easy as it sort of looks. We're still working out some bugs here and there, but we're gonna get it down. And today we got Jules with us. Hopefully everybody in here, I think everybody in here knows who Jules is. Jules has to be short maybe for something. We'll find out. She gets some pretty amazing photographs of these cats. And I mean, if I was even close to the distance that these photographs had to have been taken from, it would be like a state of awe that I've never experienced for sure. So hopefully we'll get to talk to her about that. And also I want to thank Kev Baker for having this cool space where we can do this. It's really awesome. I'm having a great time doing it too. Hopefully y'all are having a good time listening to it. So I guess without any more blabbing on, let's bring Jules in here. Jules, can you hear me? Are you there? Hey, Jules. Can't hear you, hon. Okay. So while we try to figure that out, oh, I heard something. Uh-oh. Can everybody hear me in the chat? Okay, cool. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened, but I'm here.
That's okay. I can hear you good now.
Awesome.
Welcome to the KBS open mic, Jules. I'm really excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So, okay, the first thing I need to ask you is some of those cat pictures that you posted on the Discord chat. I mean, you would have to be within like a couple of feet to take these pictures. Are you getting that close to these big, huge cats?
No, there's a story behind that. And I don't know if you want to, like, jump right into that, or if you want to, like, build up to, like, the story.
Let's just jump into it, yeah, because, you know, curiosity is I'm kind of like cats,
Okay.
But I've never been killed by it yet.
So, I don't know where to start, and I apologize, guys, because this is a little bit close to home, and I don't intend to, like, go on forever about this, but it's part of my COVID story, and I want to give a huge shout out to one of our own that's walking the same road that I am still on, but I'm overcoming. Very similar. My heart goes out to this person. I love them dearly. It's a hard road. I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't have such great bonds with all you guys in here. I mean, Kev and KBS, they have something special. I mean, at the point where after I got back from taking care of my mom's business, I wanted to, like, reach out to every single one of you guys and just give you a hug and a thanks, because you have really helped me through my mom's ordeal.
That's really good to hear. Actually, I have a similar story. The whole reason I even found KBS was right around the time my mom passed away, and this was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And when I came into the KBS community, it was just welcoming, and I think it's my first time ever experiencing a digital hug.
Oh, I know. Digital hugs are awesome, but I can't wait to give you guys hugs in real time. So, I mean, if you'll allow me to elaborate just a little bit, because it might help somebody else down the road. We never know these days.
Please do. I think it might even help me too.
So, I mean, I mean, I'm not super old, but I'm not super young either. I guess you'd call me middle aged. But no, this story began my COVID story. My brother lives out of state in Nevada. I am in Virginia. My mom was in Mississippi. So my mom had been battling cancer for about a year. The doctors gave her 6 months to a year to live. She bile duct liver cancer is what she had. So early April, my mom fell and broke both of her arms. So we had to put her in a nursing home. It was so like I don't know if there was even a word to describe at that time what I was going through, finding my mom releasing the papers to put her into a nursing home. So she was in there, and I called her every day. I tried to. There were times when I couldn't get through because she was in a cast and she broke both of her arms and she couldn't hold anything. And so, I mean, I knew time was ticking, but I wasn't working at the time, so I got to know you guys quite well. And you helped me through those dark days. Every single one of you guys did. So moving forward, then my mom, there was a whole battle with Medicaid, Medicare, blah blah blah. But basically, she was in the nursing home under Medicare, and when the time came for her evaluation with her physical therapy, they were basically going to Medicaid was like Medicare was no, we're done. So there was a huge ordeal where my brother was actually kind enough to fly into Mississippi to take care of my mom and consult with her doctors. And I mean, he literally just got off the plane and met her for an appointment where she was getting her cast replaced. And nobody thought anything of it. And 10 days later, I woke up and there were a couple of messages from the hospital. And when I listened to the voicemail, and I wish I could find this man to just shake his hand and thank him, because I've never, like, a stranger on the phone, just his voice, I knew, and it was just, it was horrendous. I mean, I knew my time was ticking, but even then, I mean, you're never fully prepared to let go. And I still have my bad days, but my bad days are not bad days with the sunshine of friends around. I
I
mean,
can
it
totally
was,
relate to that. Actually, I mean, it's been a long time since the passing of my mother, and I still have bad days. And when I do have those bad days, guess where I end up? In here, or on the KBS show, or in the chat there, or talking to you people in the Discord. It
yeah, and
truly is family, and it supports a lot of people. Even physically, there's limitations, obviously, but emotionally and mentally, it's a huge crutch to have. And I would also like to thank everybody up there for just being here and being cool, like you guys all are.
yeah. My mom passed away on Memorial Day, literally 5 minutes before the whole George Floyd incident went down. So I spent the day like packing my bags and getting my stuff together, and I had no idea what was going on in the world. And when I got to Mississippi, it was like a solid week with like no communication. So I mean, in one of my darkest hours, the world just fell apart to shit even more. But I'm pretty close to answering your question. Um, I left early so I could go get my mom's cat because she had a beautiful cat that was in the house, cooped up for like 6 weeks with no interaction with a human being, another pet, or anything. My mom's family friends, which are still my friends too, but basically they came and they fed the cat and they scooped the box and that's it. So I spent some time with my mom's cat, and she was a sweet little girl. And I, in her town in Mississippi, Columbus, Mississippi, there is a nonprofit wildlife animal sanctuary. And before I left Virginia, I made arrangements to get her cat Mo into the sanctuary. This particular sanctuary, they don't like adopt out or anything. They're strictly like, this is your retirement. They have like 186 house cats now. They've got like 12 lions, 4 tigers, 3 bobcats. They've got 9 pigs, 5 dogs, and like a dozen horses.
I have a question. How do they end up with so many big cats? How do they like 12 lions? It's a
They were all rescues that
rescue.
are
That's astounding
they,
to me. I didn't realize that there would be like so many exotic cats that needed to be rescued.
well, especially tigers. There are more tigers in captivity than there are in the wild nowadays. From what I can't be 100% positive, but that's what I've heard. I
Wow.
mean, people buy them as like, oh, it's a cute tiger, and I even watched Tiger King, and I couldn't stop. I saw the first couple of episodes, and I just couldn't stop. But
I
I mean,
haven't watched that yet. I haven't watched that yet.
even
People keep telling me
even
to watch it, and because I won't be able to stop watching it, but I haven't started it yet.
I mean, even they were like literally smuggling tigers in suitcases in these major high dollar hotels in Las Vegas just because people wanted interaction with cute baby cubs.
Right, but when they get too big and can kill you, then it's a different story.
Yeah, and the big cats from the sanctuary. I mean, people, as horrible as it is, when they were young kittens, young cubs, they would get them, they would declaw them so they don't tear up their house, and then they just get too big. But the sanctuary, Cedar Hill, all of their animals were surrendered to them, or basically can't take care of themselves. Their owners have passed away. They don't, to my knowledge, go out specifically looking for injured animals to rehabilitate and let loose. They just, the ones that our society has deemed unnecessary, unworthy, this is where they go to spend their last days. But they have so many cats, I can't tell you, Polly, how awesome it was to go in to the room. And I opened the cage for mom's cat, and all these other cats came up looking at her. No hiss, no sound, no nothing. But all these
Wow.
cats came to me. I have never had like 57 cats just like all wanting my attention all at once.
Yeah,
They
that would be
were,
fun. That would be fun for me because I'm a cat person too. I'm also a dog person. Actually, I like all animals to be honest, but cats, I think
uh,
they might be a spirit animal.
I'm curious, but there was one cat that will stick out. I walked over to him and I pet him from his head down his back. I pet him, and he rolled over and looked at me. And you know how dogs sometimes you see them smile and they show you all of their teeth.
Yep.
There's this little cat, this cute little black cat. He looked at me and he smiled and showed me all of his teeth, just like a dog does.
That's awesome.
That was
uh,
like the best feeling ever. That was a hard week for me. That, I mean, going in and gutting my mom's house, and it was just, I mean, that particular week, I think I had 2 hours of sleep each day. But it was also, I mean, it was going back to the town that I grew up in and leaving the house and leaving good people behind.
and
I mean,
also, I think cats they can maybe dogs can do this too. Actually, I think dogs can do it, but cats have a different way of doing it, in my opinion. But they can pick up on when you're like not right, like when your vibes are off, or like when you need to be cheered up. Like they can pick up on that.
oh, they totally can. I mean, before I knew my mom's time was coming, and I was just in the middle of doing whatever, and I sat down for a minute, and I just had a stream of tears come, and Roxy, my black one, she came and looked at me, and she just literally she licked away a tear.
Yeah, they're really empathic, I guess would be the right word for it. It's not, it's almost paranormal. I mean,
Yeah,
you can
but
you can see things in their eyes that you don't see in human eyes.
yeah, again, it's all and looking back on it. I miss my mom, but I know she is so much better off where she's at, and she was a devout Christian. My grandfather was an evangelist. I kind of didn't grow up. My mom's biggest regret probably would have been that I didn't go to church and she didn't force religion on me. But looking back, I actually appreciate the fact that she didn't because I'm finding my own way. I'm forging my own path.
That's all we can do here is forge your own path. It's, I mean,
Exactly.
it's when you get off your own path that you usually find that you have the most trouble.
Yeah, when you get off your path, you're easily persuaded, and some of those persuasions might not necessarily be what you are trying to attain.
True. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think that we're all born with a path already set out for us, or do you think that we actually carve our own?
That's a very interesting question. About 10 years ago, a friend of mine gave me a book, the book on destiny, and I have yet to crack it open. I think everybody has their own uniqueness about them. Some people get it, some people don't. I mean, I can tell you that everything about me, I have this connection with two. Two is my mystical number. Everything I can relate or somehow is intertwined with the number two. I, I'm the second child born the second day of the second month.
Why do you think number two? What's the what? I mean, some people think that numbers mean stuff, right? And there's a couple of different viewpoints on what these numbers actually mean. So, what does number two mean to you?
Number two, realizing that two is a driving force with me. One of the biggest things that I struggled with for years is duality. There's always something accompanying two, and or but this. It's always there's another side with two. And growing up, I never really embraced the other side of two, and the other side of two is where it's at. That's where I learned some of my awakening stuff is just realizing, you're different. Here's why. It was just a self affirmation for me. I always did things and I never knew why I did them. I always thought, well, I'm not going to do that because it's out of laziness. And then in hindsight, like about 10 years ago, I was seriously getting ready to start my own business, not knowing why. There was this gut feeling that was telling me not to do it. And then as the years tick by, and right now is a perfect example. Everything going on with this COVID and closing out small businesses. I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but there have been a few silver linings that have happened, at least from my perspective, around COVID. But I almost feel bad pointing them out uh, because most people that I talk to are, being affected negatively by COVID. Um, is there anything else maybe positive that's happened to you so that you could sort of look back on and say if it wasn't for COVID, that you wouldn't have had that sort of silver lining, so to speak?
Well, up until like a couple of years ago when I struggled with with the whole concept of duality. Now I'm embracing it, and by me embracing that duality, I don't have to like have any doubts about anything.
Yeah, and also there's the more some people are like this, and I think a lot of people in the KBS community are similar. Maybe this is one of the commonalities we all have is that when we're put under huge amounts of stress, that's actually the best sort of environment to grow as a person and gain strength. Because when you come out of the other side, and if you have this sort of community like around you to help you get through it, then when you do come out of the other side, now you've put yourself in a position where you can actually help somebody more than you could previously because of what you've gone through and your experiences and the strength that you've gained from that is what you can use to help other people. And I think
Exactly.
COVID's done a whole lot of that kind of stuff for me. Uh, so I'm just glad that we have somewhere like this to come to talk about it and hang out and cheer each other up and
Exactly. Me too.
good. Okay. Okay. Where do we
Yeah,
want to? Do
so those pictures of the big cats, those are all Cedar Hill. Um, they send me pictures from time to time, and then from time to time, I actually get on their website and social media, and I see the cats.
So
Uh,
you actually get within like feet of these big cats? Like they are they like people friendly and they just kind of act like sort of normal house cats? Like do they
I
are
got
you allowed to
close
touch
to a
them?
couple of them. I got close to a couple of them. I didn't pet them or anything. I was like 5 feet from them, but I only got to see two of them when I dropped Mom's cat off. I mean, going to her house, I took 13 trash bags, big trash bags of linens and sheets and everything. I went through her pantry. For the pigs, I got like canned vegetables and stuff that didn't have any sodium in them. And I donated a big, huge jar of spare change that was close to $700, and I'm sure they could use it. So I mean, it all worked out, and my brother was gonna donate my mom's house to her church, and then he saw the progress that I made with the cat in Cedar Hill, and he ended up deeding the animal sanctuary mom's house. And it was all bittersweet because after that was all done, I was going through some pictures, and I found a picture of my mom when she was a teenager, and she was holding two cats. And I was going through the house, and I came across a letter that her brother had written about her because she was being recognized for some event. But basically, the short story that he wrote with that was all his sister needed was good friends, good company, and she was a lover of pets along the way.
That's awesome. Yeah. For
You know,
anybody out there that doesn't have any pets, I get why some people don't have pets. It's kind of an extra responsibility to add on top of all the other responsibilities that we have. But what you get back from a pet is priceless. You can't put a monetary value on it. I've always had a pet in my life. It's
oh, I have
something that
to.
I need. If I
The cat.
Yeah, if I didn't have a pet, then I would feel sort of like that I didn't almost have a purpose. Like, I mean, it's not the same thing as having children. That's different. A pet
Yeah.
is, I mean, I don't have a memory in my whole entire life of not having some pet of like either a dog or a cat or uh, I've pretty much only ever had dogs or cats to be honest.
Yeah, I've had the occasional hamster and guinea pig
Oh, I
in
did
my
have a
younger
mouse once, yeah, a mouse. But
in, in my younger years.
the mouse I had wasn't it was an albino mouse with the red eyes.
Oh,
And
what about you?
all it did was keep me awake at night by eating stuff. It wasn't like it wasn't a very gratifying pet.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, there was always an animal, a dog, a cat, or something in my life. I remember years ago, my one of my we had the family dog, His name was Grover. The family let me name him, so when you give a 7-year-old child, of course they're going to name it after their favorite Sesame Street character.
Super Grover was my favorite.
But Grover was like a miniature sheepdog, and we left Hawaii. We couldn't bring him over because of quarantine and everything. So that was like the dog that I wish I could get again. But, my cats, Roxy and Rowan, they actually came to me in a dream.
Really? A dream. Okay, we have to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, so prior to this dream, let me give you some backstory of Custard.
Yeah.
Custard, again, I mean, you let the youngest child in the house in the 80s name it, they're going to name something that's specific to them. So Custard was named after Custard from Strawberry Shortcake. When I was like 8, 9, Strawberry Shortcake was my jam. So Custard we got when we moved from Hawaii in 1980, late 81, 82. Just went to the shelter because all I wanted was a cat. We had just moved, and my mom promised. My parents were like, okay, you can get a cat. So went to the shelter and picked out this black cat, picked her up. She fell asleep in my arms. And I love this cat. She was my childhood cat from 80 to 85, maybe 86. There was a time where my parents had met some friends, and all the relationships were new. And so basically what happened is I was 12 or 13 at the time, but I went with my mom and her friends, Bill and Rich, to meet their parents who lived like 3 hours in the country. So while I was gone, there was some stuff that happened. My next door neighbors, they also had a black cat, and apparently Custard was mistaken for Midnight, and poor Custard was murdered, basically. She was shot at close range. All throughout my childhood and most of my life, my parents told me that Custard got ran over. Okay, so that's the backstory with Custard. So Roxy and Rowan, they're unique. I had 2 tabby cats. I had to put one of them down, unfortunately. And my uncle went to the SPCA and got on their website. They have this thing called PetMatch, Pet Finder. So I filled out on the SPCA website. I'm looking for a Siamese cat because I have always, since I was a little girl, wanted a Siamese cat. I'm like, Siamese cat, I want her to be a female. I want her to be 4 to 6 months old.
My cat just came over because she's a Siamese cat, and I think she can hear you through the headphones.
And I click submit, and I'm thinking, there is no way that they're going to find me this specific criteria Siamese cat. So I went on about my business. The next morning, at the time I was managing a cafe inside the museum, I walked in, and on my desk, there was a Siamese webkin. I didn't think anything of it. Well, a few months ticked by, and all of a sudden, I'm like dreaming, and I was having a dream. I was walking down this old country road, and there was a billboard. It wasn't like lit up with neon or anything, but on this billboard there was a picture of a black cat. And I stopped and I looked at it, and it's like, that's almost Custard, but not Custard. And so, like 3 or 4 days later, I got an email from the SPCA that they had a match for my Siamese kitten. So I walked into the SPCA, and they have all these like black kittens, and kittens galore. So I go in and I inquire about the Siamese, and I pick her, and I go to the holding room, and they bring me the Siamese, and I'm holding her, and I'm like just curious, did she have any sisters? And they come back in with this black kitten, and I swear that at first it's like, okay, they know I'm in a vulnerable moment. They bring me this teaser kitten, is what I called it. And it's like, there's no, and they bring, and I'm like, there's no way that this black cat is related to the Siamese, but sure enough, they are both from the same litter. Um, but yeah, and then that kitten that I saw on the billboard is Roxy as she is now.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Can I tell you the story about my cat? Because it's a Siamese, so it's kind of similar. When I was really, really young, like maybe 4 or 5 years old, my mom got a cat, and it was a Siamese, and we named it Ziggy, and it was a blue point Siamese cat, slightly cross-eyed, was purebred. We could have made a lot of money breeding kittens off this cat, but we didn't. He was fixed. And he was basically my best friend up until I was about 22 or 23, when he just got old, and uh, I took him to the vet to put him to, he died in my arms, basically, long story short. Um,
Mm,
before the end of his life, he had gotten to the point where he would literally jump up into my arms. We had built so much trust that he knew I would catch him if he jumped. And he wasn't like jumping on me. He just jumped up so that I could grab him out of midair. So fast forward, maybe another 10 years, maybe 20, yeah, about 20 years, my sister ends up getting a Siamese cat. And my sister travels a lot with work sometimes. And so I would end up babysitting this cat. And this cat, I swear, is the reincarnation. It's also a Siamese cat. Her name is Zoe. She's now my cat because my sister had to, well, basically give her up, I guess, because of a roommate situation that was allergic or something like that. And so I had her for now maybe 3 years, and it literally, she's not even 5 years old, and she already jumps up into my arms the exact same way that Ziggy does.
that's
And
awesome.
there's a photograph I have. I might post it in Discord later, where she's sitting on her like little cat tower, and then there's a photograph behind her of Ziggy, and they look exactly the same. It's so weird. I swear it's the same soul inside a different cat.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, looking at Roxy, I brought home a big old box of pictures with me, and I was going through them, and I'm astounded how much Roxy looks like custard. I showed the pictures of custard to my friends, and they're like, "Did you get a new floor in your kitchen?" And I'm like, "No, that's custard."
The earliest memory you have of a cat or any pet that you've had? What's like how young were you, and what's the memory of? And then I'll tell you my earliest memory too.
My earliest memory is my second birthday party. That unfortunately that does involve any cats that I remember of. I mean, my earliest memories of cats, custard, probably because we traveled. I mean, my father was Air Force, and I was born in Florida. We left Florida in 77 or 78, and then we went to Hawaii, and we were there for a short amount of time. And Custard is only the cat that I remember the most because probably up until that point, all of the other cats we had to leave behind, the other pets we had to leave behind because we were traveling abroad. Well, I mean, far away. Still in the States, but far enough away that once we get to where we're going, there's the whole quarantine issue, and then we have to wait for base housing so we can move in. So Custard is the one that I remember the most because I never had to like give her up or go without her.
Right. Cool. My earliest memory was I don't know how old I was, but I know it was before any of my sisters were born, so I must have been younger than 5 years old. I came downstairs. In my hallway, we had a Samoyed husky that we were looking after at the time, and the owner just kind of left. and it turns out that this husky was pregnant. So it gave birth to 7 puppies in my hallway, and that was weird to me, but it was really cool because puppies everywhere.
Wow. Well, the only cat that I ever seen, or I didn't actually see Custard have kittens, but I went to school one day, and for some reason, my grandmother was visiting, and I was young. This was gotta be 82, because we were in base housing, but I came home from school, and Custard had kittens. This solid black cat had 2 kittens. One of them was solid black, and the other one was solid white.
Weird. You should have named them Yang and Yang.
I wanted to keep one of them, and it was a firm no from my parents. But our neighbor in the next house, they took the white kitten, and I don't know what happened to it, but it just broke my heart because they were mistreating that kitten. And that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, I don't take kindly to people that don't take good care of their pets or abuse animals. It's very triggering for me. It's one of the
Yeah.
only it's one of the only justifications that I can find in at least in my own existence for physical violence.
So we were talking last night, and the music, what happened last night, and the voice chat with music, that was some kind of awesome that was going on last night.
That was a totally impromptu. I didn't even know if it was gonna work, but yeah, I wasn't expecting everybody to have such a good time. To be honest, I was just like, uh, just trying to expose people to some music and trying to like learn how to use the music bot better. But it turned into like this little lounge party, and we were all just chilling out there. I don't even know how late we were up, but man, I slept until like 3 o'clock this afternoon because it must have been late.
Yeah, I guess it's a busy last week working these other stores. I came home last night. I was drenched in sweat. I was tired, but I clicked on, and the next thing I know, I'm there for hours. So before I went to bed last night, I popped a Tylenol PM because my bones were like, "Thank you, Jules. Let's get some rest."
Yeah, I think maybe we should do that again sometime. I don't know. Maybe I'll be around later this evening. We can try that again. And because
Okay.
if anybody that's listening wasn't there, it's basically you come into this room and you can make requests and play songs, and people just hang out, listen to the song. A lot of talk goes on about the song, why people like it, and all that kind of stuff. And people just hang out and just chill. So if you're really bored and you like good music and you want to, here's why I like it. When someone makes a request, for me, it's a key component of information about that person for me because of the way I look at music, which might not be the same as everybody else. I get that, but for me, I can tell a lot about a person by what kind of music they like, by what they're drawn to. Uh, Part of that is an understanding of how music works inside the human brain, and part of that is also an understanding of how some people react differently to different emotional stimuli than other people do, depending on personality type. So, um,
Exactly.
yeah, and there's even like correlations between personality types and the music the genre of music that they prefer. So it was really neat to see how many people there was a lot of people making requests. I'm pretty sure the queue at one point of other people's requests was over 45 minutes. So that's at least 8 songs, average, I guess. And I wasn't expecting that at all. So I mean, yeah, it was a great time. I encourage everybody if you ever do it. There'll be never any notice. It'll just happen. So keep your eyes open for it.
I bring that up because I dropped a picture in Discord last night, a picture of me and Olivia Newton-John. I mean, going back, the second time I saw Olivia Newton-John was the first time I saw Olivia Newton-John. I
That's pretty
remember it was back again, 1982. You got a physical. That was the popular albums she had out at the time. I was 9, and I begged and begged and begged and begged my parents to see Olivia Newton-John. Probably because the first time I ever heard Olivia Newton-John probably went about 78 with the Grease soundtrack. And ever since then, I've been an Olivia Newton-John fan. But getting back to the picture I dropped last night, so I got to see Olivia Newton-John. I remember sleeping in the back of the family station wagon. The tickets we got were like, they were tickets, but back then in the early '80s, major musicians, they had big, huge, elaborate stage productions. So unfortunately, our seat was on the back side of her stage production. So I never saw Olivia Newton-John when I was a kid. I only heard it. But because I heard it, all those songs that I remember, I feel it more than I remember seeing it. So it was my 41st birthday, 40th or 41st. I was sitting outside. I had some friends hanging out, sleeping over because it was my birthday weekend. So I was sitting outside, just listening to random songs on my iPod, smoking my cigarette and having my coffee. And I sat there and I thought to myself, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing Olivia Newton-John live. Well, 2 days later, she announced her residency at Las Vegas. So I took it, and a good buddy of mine, he came with me. We bought the whole meet and greet package. So the night of the show, I used the stage as an armrest. I was that close.
That's amazing. If
But
any,
I'm actually,
if anyone's ever been that close to a like I can't, I've never been that close to a concert, but I've been like, third or fourth row. There's a reason why those tickets are so much more expensive. It's because it's friggin' worth it. You can see the emotion on the musicians' faces.
yeah. I mean, it was something that I won't forget. I mean, I sat there and just made a wish to the universe, and somebody was listening and lined it up for me. But the whole meet and greet package, all the proceeds were going to her cancer and wellness research center, which I support causes like that. So it was a win-win for me. I got a vacation, I got to meet my childhood hero, and I helped give money to cancer research. And what I'm hearing that particular cancer research place, their goal is to detect cancers just with blood work.
Yeah, that's a good cause, definitely. Cancer is definitely a cause that's close to my heart for sure. It's actually the reason why I got into sort of plant medicine. Anyone who knows me knows I talk about plants and that kind of stuff. It's because of cancer that I got into that because I was trying to help people that had cancer, and I was trying to help them, m- you know, not prevent them from taking chemotherapy or radiation or anything like that because I'm not a doctor or anything, but I was just trying to open people's perspectives to, things you can add to chemotherapy, like that come from plants that are natural. And it just, if I mean, you could say if it wasn't for cancer, I wouldn't be where I am right now with all the education that I've sort of gathered with plant medicine, and now I'm going into mushrooms and um,
That's
it,
awesome.
it's really weird how a lot of these really negative things sort of seem to have uh, silver linings, and not everybody can see the silver linings. I understand why, but it would be really cool if there was a way to like have a, I don't know, some kind of master class on how to always pick out a silver lining no matter how crappy the situation you're in you find yourself no matter how crappy it is, you can sort of, if you just dig through all the crap at the edge, there's a silver lining somewhere, and it's just a matter of, a lot of times it's just a matter of changing your perspective, right?
Exactly. I mean, with everything that's going on in the world right now, it would be so easy to just cave in and not do anything and be depressed and stun off all your friends and not participate in anything. But I, I also feel like life sometimes is a series of choices. I mean, I choose to get up out of the bed every morning and move one foot in front of the other, not knowing what the day is going to bring. Especially this past week, working at other stores, it's like it's a whole different ball game. But I make the most of it, and I try to brighten somebody's day, even if I can't. At least I know that I tried.
Yeah, and you know what? You shouldn't. No one out there should ever sort of beat themselves up for if they put a serious effort into trying to brighten somebody's day, and it's just not being received the way that it was intended to be received. That's never your fault. Like you're there to be like a light in people's darkness. At least in my opinion, that's what I try to do, and I think everybody in here does the same thing. Um,
Well, I agree with that. I mean, the first time I caught Aldo live during his stream, I just tuned in, and he does have a valid point. And we all are here to help each other. We may never not know if we have a purpose, but our purpose is to be light for those who need it.
I totally agree, and I have a saying that I'm probably gonna keep drilling into people's heads, and it is you can't help the helpless. If somebody doesn't know they even need help, then you can't help them anyway. So they're helpless. They can't receive help. That's I don't mean helpless in the sense that they can't do anything for themselves. I mean they're incapable of receiving the help that you're trying to provide. And there's nothing you can do about that except just plant the seed and walk away. That's all.
Exactly.
And there's
I mean,
place for those kinds of people too. I mean, we have to have faith that something somewhere will find a place for these people, and they'll wake up, and then they'll be able to help just as many people as we can, hopefully.
exactly. I mean, this KBS group, KBS family, it's something special. I mean, it's a mess of everybody's got something unique about them that they just shine with, and sometimes they don't see it, and sometimes they do.
Yeah, I totally, yeah. I mean, I have disagreements in the KBS chat, but the difference between the disagreements that I have in this community and the differences that I have in sort of, I guess you could say, the real world, for a lack of a better word, um, is I can disagree with somebody here and they don't get upset necessarily or defensive. And so what ends up happening is we just have a discussion about it and I learn a new perspective and they learn a new perspective and then we move on. It doesn't end up affecting anybody or ruining anyone's day or anything like that. Whereas in the real world, if I question anybody's beliefs, they get really defensive and really almost aggressive, like you could say. I mean, maybe if there's a word that's slightly less aggressive than aggressive, I would use it, but I can't think of it right now. But you can see them sort of stand up and get their backs up, and they feel like they're being, not just questioned. They feel like they're being threatened, and I never get that sense here from anybody.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I see that. I mean, I work with a lot of those people that are you when you question something, they just distinctively they feel threatened.
Do you think it? Do you think it's because they don't want to listen, or do you think it's because they are listening and they're just too afraid to agree because of like a peer pressure type sort of vibe?
I think they listen to everything, and I think a lot of them don't know what to believe or what to think because they're not accustomed. They're products of the system. They're not accustomed to thinking for themselves anymore.
That's similar to, I guess, what we would call an NPC. But I think a lot of these NPCs are like covert awake. Like they just won't talk about it with anybody, or they because they don't want to be crucified. Uh, Not literally, obviously, it's a metaphorical crucifixion, but they don't want to get cast out of their groups and their social media groups and all that kind of stuff. They don't want to be looked at as crazy, and I
Yeah,
understand that.
and you're absolutely right. I work with a couple of kids who are they're gearing up. They're going to college, and they are super smart. They are bright. They like talking to me. They like hearing my wacky conspiracies, and they actually believe the information when I present to them. I'm like, this is what, and they're like, don't take my word for it. No, do look into this. Do your research. If you got, I mean, I can answer questions, but it all comes down to their social group, their friends. Their peers aren't individual like they are, so they have that typical mindset of I can't do this because my friends will disapprove and peer pressure. They always want to look good in the eyes of their peers.
This is true. And you know what? There's also a lot of people say do your own research, and I totally agree with that. But there's this weird sort of like, I guess, background stigma that comes with the word research, because when I tell some people that I'm trying to convince of an idea that I've done research on it, their immediate response is, "Oh, what did you do? Go on YouTube and watch a few videos?" Um, and my response to these people is this: yes, I have learned so much more on YouTube in the last 6 years than I've ever learned in my entire academic life. Practical things, things I can test for myself, things that I can actually use. If I want to learn algebra, I can go on YouTube and learn algebra, but I don't need algebra. What I need to know how to do is, how do I get the most out of my tomato plant? Or how do I figure out how this works? How do I build this? How do I grow my own mushrooms? And you know what? It takes way less time to learn it on YouTube, in my opinion. And so I don't understand the stigma where people say, "Oh, what did you do? Go on the internet and watch some YouTube videos?" Well, hell yeah, I did. And guess what? Now I know how to do it. So isn't that the same thing as research? Because I remember when I was in school, we had to use encyclopedias, go to a library, but now I don't have to go anywhere. I can just pick up my phone and do it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I feel like that's kind of an invalid argument. I hope somebody out there who, probably not in here, maybe at some point, because I hope we're getting this recorded. But if anybody out there who's not listening live hears this and they use that whole research thing, that's my answer to them, because you can do a lot more research more efficiently if you know how to use the search engine properly.
Exactly.
Do you have any examples of anything that you've like learned from watching YouTube that you can I guess back me up on this?
One of like the most documentaries that really opened my eyes and changed my opinion on a lot of things, and almost instantly turned on the switch for everything. My understanding of duality, understanding why this is. I mean, getting back to the duality thing, I guess why it's important for me is I can clearly see both sides. Before I embraced it, I never understood the reasoning why I always saw both sides, but I embraced the duality. I can't remember the name of this thing, but it hit on everything, and from that, I saw that, and then I actually did search engines. I did like research the hard way, and everything that I found out in that one particular documentary was bang on, spot on. And then I was introduced to David Icke, and following his works and what's going on right now, I don't believe with everything he says, but he's bang on with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think he's an interesting chap for sure. Uh, I don't know if I agree with everything he says because I haven't heard everything he says, but I like his sort of I I don't know how to. It's almost like his I guess demeanor or tone of voice, like the way he talks. It's just
Yeah,
I just like the way he talks. How he's very like definite and very not like aggressive, but like very, I guess, poignant. Or he's just he's not. I would love to have an argument with the guy actually, but unfortunately, I think he would probably say things that I would agree with, so it might be difficult.
yeah. I mean, when he's saying, I mean, his motto. I mean, what he's saying. If you know the outcome, you definitely can follow the journey. I mean, 30 years ago, he was basically saying, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. Look at the state of the world now. All the censorship,
He's not the
everything.
one too. And you know what? Some of these people are turning out to be right. You can't say it's a coincidence when there's more than one person that's saying the same thing and they're all turning out to be right.
Exactly. With all the censorship that's going on with social media and YouTube, and it pisses me off with those masks because it's like everybody's got to wear a mask, so it's like we're silent, and people don't even realize that that mask is a symbolism of your silence, of your being censored.
That is precisely why I don't wear a mask. And you know what? I'm actually getting a lot less flack for not wearing a mask. People don't even really ask me anymore. I guess it's maybe because I keep going to the same places and I keep telling them that I'm not wearing a mask. Now they just stop asking. It could be that, but it's also the general public. I get less looks, and I feel I'm probably wrong, but I like to be optimistic, so I'm gonna believe this anyways. I feel like by me not wearing a mask, people are looking at me and saying, "Hey, if he doesn't have to wear a mask, then I don't have to wear a mask. What's so special about him?" And there's nothing special about me. I'm not sick. I don't have any medical conditions. I just choose not to wear a mask because I don't want to. And I
Well,
don't think that it's going to affect anything with me. If I get this virus, I'll be fine. And you know what? I'm smart enough to know that if I do have the virus, then I'll stay at home and I won't get anyone else sick. And then if I have to go out, then I'll wear a mask because I'm sick. But otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And it's because it's my choice. It's everybody's.
exactly. And I think a lot of people were exposed to this way before March or I mean, we've been following this. I mean, we knew about this coming from China as far as January, but a lot of my friends, and including myself, like out of the blue, we just woke up one morning and didn't feel good. It's like the hardest way, I guess the best way to describe it would be like a headache in your stomach, where you're fully functional, you're capable of doing everything, but you just feel ill in your stomach. And it lasted for like a week or so, and then it left. I just, in the back of my mind, I kind of wonder if more people were exposed to it and have already had it, and it's gone. And
Actually,
that's
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing because I don't get sick just like naturally, and I get sick maybe once every like 4 or 5 years. And last Christmas was one of those years, and I got like a 3 day sort of like it felt like sort of the flu, but it was more just a cough, and it was gone in 3 days, and I got over it really quickly because that's my immune system is really I guess tuned or good or I'm just one of those people that does get sick very often. Not really sure why, but either way, it was a flu-like symptom. Like I felt achy and shivery with the cough, but it was gone within 3 days, and then that was in January. So I'm wondering too if like maybe a lot more people were exposed to this, and that's why they're finding antibodies in people that were asymptomatic, and maybe it's because they already had it.
I kind of wonder the same thing. I'm more inclined to think that a lot of people have had it, but didn't have severe symptoms of it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
I totally agree. I also wanted to know whether or not there was a correlation between the flu shot and getting tested positive with no symptoms.
breaks my heart to tell you, but I had a flu shot this past year. I typically don't get flu shots, but I went to visit my mom for Christmas, and with her treatments and everything, and her immune system being so compromised, I basically kind of had to suck it up and take one so I could spend Christmas with my mom.
That's a good reason to take one for sure. I'm not anti-vaccination or flu shot or anything like that. The reason that I have in my head for not taking a flu shot is that someone else can take mine. Someone that needs it because I can kick the flu's ass. I don't need to worry about anything like that. I'm not around people that are vulnerable or anything. So I would say they can use my vaccination or flu shot for somebody else that needs it.
I mean, but when I sat down and the pharmacist was getting ready to inject it, I'm like, is it, tell me about this vaccine. I mean, and I found out all the information. It wasn't a live bacteria. It was it was basically something that I was willing to sign off on. So I went ahead and I did it.
Awesome. Hey, have you had a good time? Because we just went through a whole hour just like that. I can't even believe it.
I mean, I've had a fantastic time. I can't believe an hour has already ticked by.
See? Okay, so it's easy, right? Everybody out there listening who hasn't booked their spot yet, see how easy it is? It's so easy and it's so fun. So book
I
your.
mean, I'm tech started and I can do it, so everybody else should.
Will you come back?
Absolutely. I think more people should do this because, I mean, you guys are getting to know me in real time, and I love all you guys in chat, and I'd like to get to know you as well.
That's amazing because I haven't heard your voice before until today. So now every time you text anything in the chat, I'm gonna hear your voice, which is I don't know. It's two of the for me. It's two of the Holy Trinity. But you can
So I have to ask
you
the
can.
question,
The first one is how they use words. The second one is the sound of their voice, and the third one, which is I think the most important one, is actual face to face, like in person, not over Skype. That does help. I guess that could go in between 2 and 3. But yeah, hearing somebody's voice definitely changes the way that they're perceived from the point on that they've heard the person's voice, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. And one of the questions people, when they first often meet me and they're trying to figure out, they're like, you don't have an accent. Where are you from? I mean, you would never know, hopefully, that I spent 20 years in Mississippi. It would have been so easy to pick up a southern accent, but I didn't.
Yeah, but you still do have a little bit of an accent because you just said it.
I might be a Virginia accent
I'm
trying to
just
come
teasing
through.
you. I'm just teasing. You said the soft T and you said the soft T and didn't. Yeah. Or the soft D, whatever it is. Yeah. I pick up on these things because I'm an audiophile. Anyway, I'm just teasing you.
It's all good.
Okay, everybody. Um, Thanks for tuning in to this open mic. It was absolutely amazing. Thanks, Jules, for coming in. If there's anything you want to say to everybody that's listening right now, is a good time to do it.
My screen is black on my phone. I'm not even sure who's in chat.
Oh, you know what? How rude. I didn't even shut up the chat room. Okay, I'm gonna shut up the chat right now. So listening right now, in no particular order, I think it's alphabetical. So there's that. We got AJ Mac, we got Brian, we got Connie, we got Darklight, we got Jose, we got some person named Jules that we talk to her one day. We got KBS. Okay, Kevin's in there. We got King Sweet, we got Leslie, we got Luna, and we got Wookie, and we got Zex. Both of which deserve another shout out. I'm always gonna shout these new people out. They've helped me out so much, and they also do all the behind the scenes backdoor stuff. I guess you
Awesome.
could call it. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Okay, I do have one thing I want to say, and it's because Luna and Donnie, they shared their experiences, their history, and they are so heartfelt and genuine. And I hate what society has done to people in general, let alone our brothers and sisters in Australia. Without Donnie and Luna, I wouldn't have mustered the courage to come on open mic with you right
well,
now.
that's amazing and synchronistic because we're hoping to have Luna next week on the open mic. So everybody tune in for that. I'm really looking forward to that one too. Um,
Yeah, so since we're winding down, my final thought, I just want to say this was awesome. I love each and every one of you, and I can't wait until we all come together and do this again. And my sisters that's walking in the same path as me, I'm hugging you digitally and virtually. You got this. We're walking the same road. I'm just 2 steps ahead of you.
awesome, and never look back. Right, just keep looking forward. I really hope everybody
Absolutely.
had a good time. I had a great time. This is they just keep for me getting more comfortable and more comfortable, and I think it's gonna keep getting better. So make sure you tell everybody about this show, and I guess until next week, people. Um, over and out. PPP.
Awesome. PPP, love you guys.